The 2026 Major League Baseball draft is here, which means we need to dig into some of the underlying data on a bunch of these names to try to understand them better as players. This video is going to jump through Roch, Cholowsky, Vahn Lackey, the decision the White Sox have at number 1. I'm going to bring in my guy from MLB Pipeline, Jim Callis, to talk about Jacob Lombard and Grady Emerson, probably top 5 picks. I will do my favorite thing in the universe, which is digging in to some of the top college arms, and then I will also look at some of the peripheral bats that are expected to go in the first round and what they do that is strong from a data standpoint. Let's get going. The White Sox at number 1. If you're going to handicap this right now, it feels to me like it's 40% Roch, 30% Emerson, and then probably 30% Lackey. Maybe you go 45, 35 and pull down Lackey a bit. But the debate between Roch and Lackey is interesting. I'm just looking at some of the process stuff here. I'm kind of taking the results, the raw results out of this, because I do think models for organizations in Major League Baseball are driven by the underlying data we're looking at here, as opposed to like this guy hit a bunch of home runs at a small park or something along those lines. Or you do have to control for conference. Big Ten is a little bit different than ACC, but regardless of that, Lackey and Roch have very similar traits. Good swing decisions all around. These aren't like elite swing decisions, but when you combine them with the raw pop and barrel rates that they're showing, it's really strong. The big differentiator between the two of them, I would say, is Roch seems to have a tendency to not hit line drives, if that makes any sense. So his ground ball rate's good, but he has like a sub 15% line drive rate. So it's either on the ground or it's up in the air. And for the most part, I think that'll work. He's a really good defender at shortstop. He's a guy that's kind of expected to win a Gold Glove at some point in his career. He's going to fly through the minor leagues. I think he maybe has a shot if the season doesn't get muddied with the CBA stuff to debut next season late with the White Sox if they take him up top, or maybe perhaps another team like the Twins or the Rays or whoever else wants to take him. Vahn Lackey in a similar spot. If you want to dream on Lackey a little more, perhaps there's something on the ground ball rate side of things where he can lift the ball a bit more. The hard hit launch is slightly lower than Roch, but again, that's not really a statistic, Hard hit launch is something you don't want to max out per se. It's something you want to hang in like the 11 to 17 degree area, not be on the ground like a Yandy Diaz, not be way up there. Say like, I think Riley Green's a guy who lifts a ton of his hard hit balls and runs into some issues from a swing miss standpoint in that respect. Looking at their swings quickly, I mean, they're both pretty fluid. I'm not a big mechanics guy on the hitting side, so I'm not going to dig deep into anything that I see because it's probably incorrect. You may have better thoughts on what aesthetically works. I think they both look totally fine. There's something about Lackey's swing that I just like more personally. I'm not sure what it is. Maybe it's the follow through and the fact that it kind of looks like he's in a home run derby whenever he swings, which I love seeing. But he's got thump, man. Both of these guys hit the ball incredibly hard. Here's some throwing, skipping over that. But yeah, he's got oppo pop, pull side pop. Both these guys pull their fly balls a reasonable amount as well. Both great players. Kind of fascinating to see where they end up. The other name in contention in all of this is Grady Emerson, Texas high school shortstop. Who better to talk about him than Jim Callis?
Thanks, Lance. I think Grady Emerson and Jacob Lombard are the two best high school position players in the draft. I'd be surprised if they aren't the first two picked in the draft. And Grady Emerson could very well go number 1 overall to the White Sox. I think he's the best player in the draft. I think he's the best pure hitter in the draft. Shortstop from Fort Worth Christian High School in Texas. And there's really not much not to like about this guy. You look at the tools. Solid power, solid speed. I wouldn't put past him that those both become plus tools once he's physically mature. He's a quality defender at shortstop. I still think about a play I saw him make in the high school All-America game last year where he made a difficult play look very routine. He's still growing. He's 6'3", 185 pounds, left-handed hitter, Gatorade Player of the Year. I just like the whole package. And to me, he's from the Dallas Metroplex area, so the standard there is Bobby Witt Jr., and he's not Bobby Witt Jr., but he's pretty close. So I give a little bit of a lesser version of Bobby Witt Jr., and Bobby Witt Jr. is probably one of the top 5 players in Major League Baseball. Jacob Lombard's a little bit different animal. I think he's a little bit more physical, weighs about 10 pounds more than Grady Emerson does right now. He's a high school shortstop from Gulliver Prep in Miami. There's more present power. I think usable power would be pretty close when all is said and done. He's definitely quicker, maybe a full grade better speed than Grady Emerson. Similar defender. I think the biggest difference between the two is probably in the hitting ability, to be honest with you. There are some teams that have questions on Jacob Lombard's bat after some swing and miss on the high school showcase circuit last summer. There's other proponents will tell you he hit better this spring and they feel better about the bat. But there's no question in my mind that Grady Emerson is a better hitter. I think he's the best hitter in the whole draft in terms of pure hitting ability when all is said and done. Also, Jacob Lombard's a right-handed hitter. Physically, he kind of gets, I've heard Carlos create a body comp, so that's maybe the comp that jumps to mind to him. But both those guys, very interesting players, potential top 5 picks. Back to you, Lance.
Jim is my guy. Appreciate him for giving us some insight there. He knows the high school circuit a lot better than me. Let's get to the part that you really are in here for, is looking at some of the top arms. Jackson Flora off the top, UCSB, fascinating pitcher. I do think there are some subtle four-seam playability concerns. The four-seam fastball is like 17-7. It's a below average release height. It's the kind of lower arm angle. He cut rides it a bit, but you have to assume that it will contract a bit with the Major League Baseball. The college baseball and the minor league ball both inflate Magnus movement to some extent. But the reason you would be drafting him is that he has an awesome breaking ball package. He's throwing basically two sweepers. I have a cutter and a slider in here, but both these pitches have like 5 inches or more of induced vertical break and around, let's say, 10 inches of glove side movement. I talked to him at the combine, and he throws 3 pitches. He throws a slider, a sweeper, and a curveball. So there's something about that more slider style pitch. He must get to the front of it or how the seams catch that allows it to kind of lift and ride to his glove side. It's a really fun breaking ball package. I think you could maybe dream on almost 4 or 5 breaking balls, which is pretty sick. Talked to a couple people in organizations who do think he will be more of like a sinker four-seam guy as he extends through the minors and gets up to the majors. My stuff model likes him. Extension's pretty solid, right around 7 feet, 5'7" release. Pretty much everything in here is decent for him. You know, college zone rates seem to be a little bit odd from the data I have. So I'm more so leaning towards the strike side of things, I would say. But yeah, he allows a lot of fly balls, as you generally sometimes see from these more maybe cut righty vertical fastballs. But it's a great package. There's good spin capacity. You're really betting on the breaking balls. He isn't Cade Anderson, Chase Burns. I don't think he's in that tier of arm purely because of the fastball playability. He's a very good pitcher. I expect him to go probably 5 or 6 in that window. I think he said at the combine that he met with 7 teams or so. So if he falls outside the top 7, that'd be surprising. I don't exactly know what teams that he met with specifically. I don't really know if I have a comp here on him. I think the one name that came to mind just from a breaking ball package standpoint is actually Andrew Painter. Bit different of like a raw body type and stuff, and I'm not saying that he's going to have Andrew Painter's four-seam playability because he's a guy that I think everyone's kind of forcing into a true cutter, but I think the breaking ball package is comparable for both of them, especially with Painter having like a really nice slider and the sweeper that he kind of turfed after he ran into injury. Liam Peterson is my number 2 in this class. He had awful results at Florida. I will point out, talking to people in baseball, it does seem like the University of Florida does not have the greatest pitching development. They just canned their pitching coach, who is the same pitching coach that had Brandon Sproat and Hurston Waldrop, both guys who kind of didn't excel in their final years before being drafted. And you see a similar situation with Liam Peterson. I mean, he threw a bunch of 2-strike four-seam fastballs, which I really didn't understand. It was up around like 40-45%. I don't know why he's doing that. He's got this crazy slider that he spins at like 2,800. He doesn't create a lot of lateral movement because he's a higher slot guy, but the raw spin rate here, the ability to hold velocity as he creates depth is really solid. That's like kind of supination capacity as opposed to raw spin capacity. He's up there. So he's got the short slider. He's got a secondary curve. I think the curve could be better based on the slider shape. Doesn't really make sense to me that you have plus depth to the glove side on his slider, and you don't really have that on the curveball, but it's a big towering fastball. It's kind of downhill. There is a bit of a slot drop to get to some of the secondaries, but I like who he is as a pitcher. Your bet here is that he will be better outside of Florida. It's funky, man. It's a really good slider. It's an awesome fastball. I think you just bet on that, and it's one of the nicer combinations of like the raw fastball carry alongside that slider right there. That's a sick pitch. So I like him a lot. I think he's a very good pitcher. My number 3 is Taylor Rabe from Ole Miss. A little bit off the radar. I did see Keith Law mock Taylor Rabe in the first round around the 20s. So there's other people on him. I like him purely because it's a bunch of strikes with the four-seam fastball. The release rates are pretty solid. I know it's a bit of a steeper plane here, but the supination capacity I'm talking about, he has the ability to hold velocity on his breaking balls. And that's really important to me. We're going to get into 3 other arms in a second that don't do that I do think teams have question marks about. So Rabe falls into this category, similar to Cade Townsend, who's also an Ole Miss pitcher, does a similar thing where they have good spin feel. Maybe there's subtle questions around the four-seamer, but I think Rabe's four-seam command is pretty good. And I dig him. I just think this slider is really good. It's kind of like a death ball pitch at 84. Then he has like more of a gyro bullet cutter at like 89. So there's a nice breaking ball package in here. And it's downhill enough where it will work as he influences, or they encourage him in pro ball to use more sinker, gets into a deeper mix. He also did a rework of his delivery. And talking to some people in organizations and kind of hearing about what Ole Miss did, he basically changed like his loading strategy. And that kind of flipped up his arm a little from what I understand. And the results got a little better. The velo's been the same. The strikes got a little better. But it was more like a posture adjustment at release for him that it sounds like a lot of teams like, and I like him a lot as well. Teegan Kuhns. This is the category now. It's Kuhns, Cameron Flukey, Jack Radel from Notre Dame. Flukey's Coastal. Teegan Kuhns is Tennessee. These 3 guys all have the problem that you're going to hear when you talk to people in orgs or you talk to anybody about these pitchers. You're not entirely sure what the breaking ball package is. And that is, I think, a bit of a concern in Major League Baseball. If you're trying to project out Major League performance, a lot of the time it's like, how good is the four-seam fastball? And then, hey, are there spin traits of any capacity such that we're confident he's going to be able to spin the ball and get right-handed hitters out? Kuhns has a great fastball, and he's kind of got not much else. The curveball grades out really well here because of the velocity separation from his four-seamer. It's like, what is that, almost 20 miles per hour? Like 18 miles per hour? So my model, for some reason, loves that. I don't really think that's great of a curveball. The four-seam for Kuhns I like because the release traits are interesting. You go to Flukey, you go to Radel, the release traits are a little weirder. But Kuhns is interesting because the four-seam fastball from this 5.6 release, even if this contracts a bit, he's got a lot of strikes. This thing will work. It's more a matter of what does he do from a breaking ball standpoint. Someone told me that his slider grip is one of the most preposterous things that some guy in a pro org has ever seen. So that's an immediate change he gets into an org. But yeah, he can't hold velo on his when he gets to the side of the ball. That's kind of the supination capacity that you're going to hear about a lot. There is a bit of spin capacity here, but it's going to be a struggle for him to get to multiple breaking ball shapes that work versus lefties and righties. And I do think that creates some concern around the profile. Is the four seam good enough to work? I think it is. You know, he's got a little, I think I comped him to like Shane Bieber, which I don't love because the arm action's a lot longer, but he has that similar idea of like, the four seam's really playable. If you could just dot and command everything to the outer third of the plate for him, I think it'll work in that sense. So I like Kuhns. I think he's a good pitcher. Camlin Flukey is a bit different here. That's not a changeup down there. Don't worry about that. But this is another one where it's like fastball or nothing. He's sitting 96. He had a rib injury this year. I do think he's falling kind of in the first round. It's the same story, though. He can land his curveball, so if you want to go into the command territory with it, that's good. But overall, it's really just a fastball. Like, you're really hoping to figure out something from a delivery standpoint, maybe a slot standpoint, to get more lateral on the breaking balls or get something on the breaking balls to work. Because right now, it's just a four-seam fastball. He's really dynamic as an athlete. Like, it's a long arm again. Maybe that has some connection back to the ability to supinate and hold velocity on these shapes, but you know, he's going to throw a lot of four-seam fastballs in pro ball. Will it work? I think it will, but is it a starting pitcher that could go 6 into a game? I struggle with that a bit. There's not a lot of guys who could do that without strong breaking ball shapes. Jack Radel is another one. This is more of like the extension bet. I would say Kuhns is more the release height bet, the combo. Radel just has like close to almost 7.5 feet here of extension, which is really impressive. But again, similar story. Like there really isn't too many great shapes from a breaking ball glove side standpoint. So you're going to have to really rely on command of those offerings. He does have strikes. So is that your foundation you're willing to go after? Sure, then yeah, maybe this profile could work in that sense. He's a huge dude. I almost feel like he should be sitting a little harder than the 94 he was sitting. Big guy, moves down the mound really well. Again, that's like, it's just massive extension for him. So fun arm in that sense. And I think that will conclude my look at pitchers. I'm going to jump over to my Substack really quick. There is a Substack post where I get into 15 of these guys. Similar kind of data that we were just looking at. You'll see like Jackson Flora right here. I have it for another like 10 arms or so. So I encourage you to check that out. $5 a month, $30 a year. I'll link to it in the video description. I'm sure a lot of people on the channel already know about it and follow me on there. I do a lot of work on there. But if you want more, hop into there. Now, looking at some hitters in particular, I'm going to compare and contrast them to some extent. These are a bit different of profiles than Roch and Vahn Lackey. So we're going to run into guys who maybe have more flaws than Roch and Vahn. So that's good. I think it's good to look at guys who maybe aren't as strong. Drew Burress looks awesome. Everything from a data standpoint really checks out for him. A lot of pull in the air, which maybe is subtle concern in that sense, but a lot of fly balls. If that regresses over time, maybe run into like small issues with, hey, you're pretty one-dimensional. He's got to pull all his power, but we've seen the profiles like this work before. The swing decisions are really solid as well. The problem here is he's kind of a small guy. I think he's like 5'9". He reminds me a little like David Eckstein in the box. I don't know what it is about, perhaps like his hands, how he's kind of covering his face with his forearm to some extent. But yeah, this guy hits. He hits for pop. A lot of it is pull side. There's sneaky power here. And it's an interesting profile. This is one of those things where if you're a scout, it's difficult to like look at this guy and go, yeah, I could take him 6 overall. But I don't know. I'm confident that he's going to be able to hit. Like everything he's doing from an underlying data standpoint looks really strong. So I don't know why he wouldn't be able to translate this. It's just the size thing, you know? And I don't know. If that's a reason you want to knock him as a scout, I totally get it. Justin Lebron is more of like a, hey, he's got some swing and miss. some zone contact issues, some whiff, some chase. I would love this if it was more zone contact problems with the pop he has in no chase, but you're combining kind of two problems here where you have zone contact issues and he misses in zone and he chases. A lot of things that are going to have to move around in order to be like more of a viable pro ball bat, I would say. The raw juice here is fine. The barrel rate's pretty good. He does hit the ball pretty hard. You know, I worry about the combo of zone contact issues alongside chase. His swing's pretty quiet. I'm not sure if he kind of looks like Carlos Correa a little bit, but everyone comps to Carlos Correa in the draft. I feel like that's an overused comp. What was this swing here? It's good. I mean, hey, he looks pretty solid from a swing standpoint. Again, I'm not a biomechanics guy on the hitting side, so I feel like anyone hitting nukes looks pretty good. Definitely running into a bit of bias there. You can pick it at shortstop. Pretty smooth action, strong arm. Let's see this swing before we get on to our last guy. Yeah, I'd be curious in someone's thoughts on like dimensionally how he works from a swing standpoint and why perhaps there's some zone contact issues, because I don't think he's going to be able to fix the chase. Chase is really hard to fix. Very similar to like strike throwing or force seam command. It's just somewhat immutable. Teams don't love their confidence level in changing something like that. All right, two more guys before we get out of here. AJ Garcia is a name I really like because he's in that same ilk of Burress. He's just a bigger dude. He's a lefty bat. Great swing decisions. He's not chasing. Doesn't really miss in zone. He's hitting the ball hard. He's barreling the ball, lifting his hard hit balls, pulls it in the air, doesn't hit ground balls, fly balls. I kind of got no knocks here. It's just that he's a lefty. He reminds me a little like Walker Jenkins. Really similar swings. He's a Twins prospect who's kind of been hurt a bit, but is definitely like a top 20, 25 name in Major League Baseball from a prospect standpoint. It's a very steep swing. You can probably see that path. We'll look at it one more time quick. It is a Walker Jenkins-y in that respect. I do think this is going to lend itself to some of the loft we're talking about. He's got like a big hard hit launch. Riley Greeny in some capacity. I think that lines up, but I like him a lot. I mean, I don't see too much wrong on the data side there. Daniel Jackson's another really fun one. This is one that Jim Callis and I like a lot. I'm curious to see if he goes earlier than 20. But he won the Golden Spikes Award. Again, it's more muted on like the swing discipline side of things, so it's a little Justin Lebroni in that sense, but he has better raw barrel rate. 17% barrel is wild. There's really no one up in like the 14s that we've seen in some of the top names that I was looking at. Very similar sense to AJ Garcia here. And he catches too. You want to stick him at catcher. This is like, I wouldn't say it's budget Vahn Lackey, but he's a cheaper Vahn Lackey. You can get him in the late 20s, man. I mean, this dude's a stud from that sense. If you want to accelerate the bat too and you think it's good enough, this is what I was talking about too with Justin LeBron. Jackson isn't chasing, so it's purely a zone contact subtle issue, if you want to call it that. Can you fix that in pro ball? And can he catch? I think Daniel Jackson maybe has some of the larger upside from a position player standpoint on the collegiate side. So curious to see where he goes. Fascinated to see where any of these guys go. As always, thanks for watching, checking out the channel. I wanted to get this out there a couple days before the draft. Hopefully you tune in. I'm on the broadcast. Melanie Newman, Carlos Cholowsky, Jim Callis. We have a side desk going on. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think the coverage starts 12:30 Eastern time on Saturday. The draft's at 1 o'clock, doing 4 rounds. I'm basically going to be talking all the college arms. So if you see me on there, that is what I'll be talking about. Appreciate you guys. Take care.